Well, mass layoffs are coming for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA secretary has said the department is looking at laying off about 80,000 employees to increase efficiency. Lee Waldman is live in New York now. Lee, you spoke to some VA employees who are clearly worried about these cuts and how they will impact their ability to serve veterans.
Exactly, Alex. Leaders at the Department of Veterans Affairs are reviewing their employees with plans for what they're calling a reduction in force and reorganization. However, VA employees that we spoke with worry that losing tens of thousands of employees will hinder their ability to serve veterans.
The veterans just aren't going to get taken care of the way they should be.
Fears are mounting for Veterans Affairs employees and their union representation, American Federation of Government Employees, over sweeping layoffs planned for the department. Veteran Affairs Secretary Doug Collins says the VA is aiming to cut its staff by some 80,000, about 17% of its workforce.
Money and people are not the issue. So what we're looking at here is, are we spending, the money properly, and are we having the right amount of employees, or do we have just too much bureaucracy?
According to an internal memo obtained by CNN earlier this month, reduction in force and reorganization plans will be submitted by April 13th and revealed in June when cuts will begin. Jonathan Geller, the vice president of an AFGE branch in New York, worries about the impact on veterans they help.
This is going to affect all patient care. As a whole. I mean, from the call centers, from eligibility to benefits, to the crisis line, to member services lines.
Erica Alexander is a crisis responder on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. She believes layoffs will leave veterans without critical safety nets and mental health support.
I think it's going to be hard to make sure that no calls go unanswered.
They gave so much for their country, but Geller worries the country won't be able to give back to them.
This was a promise. We promised these men and women to care for them.
At this point, Collins says his department has not made any final decisions on which employees will face layoffs, but sources at the VA have given new insight today, Alex, that call centers will be impacted.
Now, Lee, do we have any insight as to who is making the decisions on VA cuts and any more information on who could be facing those layoffs?
Well, Alex, as far as who is making these calls, we heard from congressional staffers, and they said the team implementing these cuts will be made up of leadership from headquarters and also from regional network directors. But more insight on who is actually going to face these layoffs: the call centers, which handle veterans' calls for making appointments and arranging medical care, they might not have a live person on the other end. We're hearing that the VA is looking to automate this process. Now, if those layoffs do happen, that'll account for about 20% of the VA's workforce. We're also hearing that it'll impact medical and healthcare support teams as well as administrative roles. And just to remind everyone, 2,400 VA employees have already been fired.
Now, a lot of people impacted by this, Lee. We do appreciate this report.